Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Round 13 preview brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. And we kick off on Friday night with the Blues versus the Hurricanes up in Eden Park. Looking at the side that the Blues have put out, we've got Tilley and Rieko Ioane coming back on the wings to join Nanai, TJ Faiani, Nonu, Harry Plummer and Sam Nock in the backs there. Yep. Harry Plummer has been picked ahead of Terry Black, who had a very bad day with the boot last weekend against the Brumbies. So you've got to say that was that's an interesting choice. The young kid's got given a go there. The front row offer James Parsons, Carl means the All Blacks are back. Patrick Tuipulotu, Josh Goodhue in the locks. Papi Leahy, Gibson, and Akira Ioane round that out. So that is a pretty good pack if you think about it. It's that's basically 6 out of those 8 have been in and around All Black squads. So it should be a decent. So it should be able to give them some sort of platform, you'd think, against what a lot of people consider to be a fairly lightweight front 5 for the Canes. Looking at the Canes, a fairly settled side. You've got Tumanga Allen, Amua, and Toby Smith coming back into that front row. Blackwell and Walker Liwe, who impressed last weekend. Then Fafita, Ardy Surveyor, and Reed Princep in the as the Lucies, or the back row. TJ Piranara comes back to captain the side. Will partner Bowden Barrett. Ben Lamb also comes back from injury as well. On one wing, Houston on the other wing, and Barrett at fullback, where he's been playing a lot better. That means that Tia drops back to the bench, and then Lamapi and Matt Proctor have been been both in the centres there. So you've got to say that that's again a very exciting back line, and the question marks just around that has that front 5 against the Blues front 5 that should be pretty good, even if it hasn't always stood up. Looking, Blues have only lost once at home so far this season. That was to the Crusaders. However, I still think that the Hurricanes go into this as favourites because they've not the only team they've lost to this season has been the Crusaders. They got that draw with the Chiefs away from home, but they've won all their other games. So the Hurricanes will go into this one as favourites. Next up, we have the Rebels hosting the Reds. Now, the Rebels are still top of the Australian Conference, but they're on even points with the Brumbies. And the Brumbies are hosting the Sunwolves in this game. And actually, if you look at the run-ins for the Rebels and the Brumbies, it is extremely similar. The Rebels, I think, have got one less game, but the Brumbies got to play the Crusaders. That's an automatic loss. That evens things out. And the Brumbies still got to play the Sunwolves twice. Yeah, good, interesting run-in for those two, both on, I say, the same points on the Australian Conference. English is out, but Meeks comes back in to replace him. So you've got Haylett Petty, Maddox, Corabetti as your back 3, then Hodge and Meeks in centres, Quade Cooper and Will Genia. And then in the front, in your the forwards, Faulkner, Rangi and Ainsley at the front row. Ross, Haylett Petty, Phillip in the locks, Jones, Cottrell and Nazarani as the back row. So with the players, and there's not many, Richard Hardwick's come back onto the bench, but yeah, the bench doesn't look particularly strong, but up against the Reds, it's a pretty similar situation, isn't it? So it's going to be interesting to see how those two teams cope when the subs come on, whether it holds together or not. Especially when you think about players like when Wilgenia comes off and Rue comes on, that's a big drop down. So you'd want, as the Rebels, you'd want to have some sort of lead going into that final quarter, I think, at home. Looking at the Reds with Hamish Stewart, with Campbell and Karevi in the backfield. Fuastatu, not Karevi, Maivalo in the backfield. Viula Satua and Karevi in the centres there. McDermott and Hegarty are the 9-10 combination. Up front, Tupu, Maffey, Smith, Rodder, Blythe in the engine room, Scott Young right, and Higginbottom as the back row. Now, yeah, this Reds pack can generally grunt it out with most teams, and we've got Ryan Smith on the bench there. So, yeah, rotating their props nicely. All those props have had good game time. You've got to say that, yeah, they're definitely good there. Caleb Tumu also comes back from suspension onto the bench as well. So I think the Reds will actually give the Rebels a decent game. Rebels have stuttered recently, which has allowed the Brumbies to catch them, and there'll definitely be pressure on the Rebels to win this game rather than the Reds. The Reds can go into this pretty pressure-free away from home. Then overnight, the Friday night game in South Africa with the Bulls hosting the Crusaders. Odendaal, Warner, Jenkins and Brits, the four players that come back, which means you've got Glent, Hendricks and Speckman as in their back three. Coetzee and Odendaal in there. Pollard with Andre Warner to run things. Then you've got Boka, Brits, Nayake, with Jenkins and Seaman in the locks there. Van Standen, Christen, and Vermeulen are your loose trio. So, yeah, it's a good side. We've got lots of Springboks in there, but they are coming up against what is perhaps pretty much a near full strength Crusader side. A couple of players missing in Sam Whitelock and Franks, but bar that, this is a after resting players, we've got Havili, Richard Mwanga and Ryan Crotty coming back in to the side. So you've got to say that definitely strengthens the backs. So Havili, Sevu Reece, who has obviously been on fire, and George Bridge are back three. George Bridge can also play fullback, so we got under the high ball. Sevu Reece, expect him to get tested by Pollard, especially at altitude, I would think, to check his positioning, and also him under the high ball as well. Goodhue and Crotty in that centre combination, and then Bryn Hall and Richard Mwanga are the decision makers. Across the front row, Moody, Cody Taylor, Alalatoa is a strong front row. Dunshay and Scott Barrett in the engine room there. So Dunshay, a bit of hasn't had that much rugby this season, so he's going to have to be looked after. But with these players like Tafua, Todd, and Reed also helping him out, he's got there's a lot of experience around there to help him. As always, off the bench, we've got players like Luke Romano, Fetu Douglas, Mitchell Drummond, Braden Ennell, who's been playing really well, and even Mitchell Hunt coming off the bench as well. So a very strong Crusaders side there, taking on the Bulls, and you definitely back them to win. I mean, they've not lost. The only game they've lost all season was post Christchurch. The attacks against I've gone blank. Waratahs. When they rested again, players like Richard Mwanga, etc. They rested Richard Mwanga last weekend, and they drew. But he's back, so I think they'll be absolutely fine this coming weekend. We've got an early 5:15 kickoff in New Zealand, what they call a family game, because it's earlier in the day, where the Highlanders host the Jaguares. Obviously, with Ben Smith's injury, there's a bit of shuffling in the back, so Fadders is now going to be is going to fill in at 15, and he's going to be joined by Highland. I think it's a fantastic name for the Highlanders, even though it's spelled differently, and Lee in that back three. And you've got Thompson, Tomkinson, a really decent centre pairing. Tauranga Walden gets rested this weekend. Aaron Smith, Josh Ioane. Josh Ioane's been playing really well this season, so happy with those. Then you got some, but interesting that they decided actually to rest or to put on the bench Daniel Leonard Brown and Chura Lomax, their first choice props. They're going to start with Johnson and Tokilahi. So you got to say that there's an opportunity there for the Jaguares, so they want to go after it. Liam Coltman in the middle there, or Coltman. They've got the pronunciation again this weekend. Dixon, Franklin are the two in the engine room. Whitelock, Lenchies, and Elliot Dixon. It's Elliot Dixon's 100th Super Rugby game, I think, 101st game for the Highlanders. So congratulations to him. Decent people coming off the bench. Liam Squire is back. This is his first game back from long-term injury. So obviously the All Black there. That's going to be good. I've already talked about the two props with Ash Dixon. That's a really good front row replacements to come on. A bit of some interesting in the backs though. Kane Hamilton, you don't have him having too many minutes, to be honest. And Thomas Emmanuel Jensen coming back. He was pretty good early in the season. It's good to see him back in here now. But big one is around the Daniel Hollensheed, the Bay of Plenty first 5'8", or number 10, or fly half, whatever you want to use. Has had a short stint in France, but really not a name that I know very well. I think very few people will, but that's because Gatland has gone and had the season-ending injury. Banks clearly also injured as well, so they're down. Another team, a bit like the Chiefs, down on their first 5 resources. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets any game time. Not had any news on the Jaguares selections yet. One point though I made in a couple of videos recently is the Jaguares now are the lowest offloading team in Super Rugby. Now, a lot of people remember Jaguares when they first arrived, and they were expansive, lots of offloads. They're still expansive, but they don't offload. They go for quick ruck ball. So it's a different style of play. It's less risky, but also it's not quite as quick as a quick ruck is not as quick as an offload. So it gives the defence more time to set, but they are still using their width, and they are still an attacking side. But just be aware that they're not the offloading side. And the harem scarum side that they used to be. Then the Saturday 7:30 game is the Chiefs versus the Sharks at FMG Stadium in Hamilton. Obviously, the Chiefs really needing a win from this, but the Sharks coming off a very good performance against the Crusaders. I don't have the Sharks line up here, but for the Crusaders, we've got Solomon Alamalo, Sean Wainui, and Nayani Satoro in the back 3. Now, Solomon Alamalo really needs a good game. He's been very rusty since coming back into the side. This was his 3rd game back, I think, now, from quite a long layoff. So he really does need to pick up some performances. We've got Manu Leonard-Brown in the centres, which is fine. Webber and McKenzie there in the decision making, as you'd expect. And the front row, Atu Molly, Nathan Harris, and Lualala. There, we've still Kane Haynes, etc., still injured. Tyler Ardron moves into the locking with Allardyce getting injured, and so Mitchell Brown is his partner there. So we have Jesse Parity and Mitchell Karpik coming in to the back 3 combination. So Jesse Parity at 6, Mitchell Karpik at 7, and Luke Jacobson moves to 8. Had a really good game last weekend against the Highlanders, and has been called an All Blacks bolter, but let's be blunt here. He's a long way off that, in all honesty. Off the bench, players like Angus Taavao, he'll be good off the bench. Tileni Siao also will get some game time, I expect. Plus, Tiorangi, the Triple T, is quite a lot of people know him. Will obviously be trying to get time because obviously he wants for his All Blacks playing. Sean Stevenson in the 22 jersey means there isn't any real backup for Marty McKenzie. If he gets injured, they are in some serious stick. It'll be really kind of scary what happens there. And Nakavelli is the other replacement. The other 2 games then, so over Saturday night, we have the Lions versus the Waratahs. Obviously at altitude, Waratahs still with that whole Falau thing going on. So hopefully the coaches are managing the players and not letting that distract them too much. But heading over there at altitude, you've got to say they're going to struggle. But Lions, bottom of the Africa Conference. Who would have thought it, after the fact they've been in this finals for so many years. So they really need the win here. You've got to say that the Lions should, at home, have too much for the Tars. And then finally, on Sunday, we have a game, which is the Brumbies versus Sunwolves. And clearly, the Sunwolves, bottom of the competition. The Brumbies really need a try bonus point win here, which is going to be difficult for them because they don't score many tries, and the Sunwolves do score tries. The Sunwolves lose, but they score tries. To try and score 3 more tries than the Sunwolves, that's going to take some effort by the Brumbies. But they really need that try bonus point because they're on the same number of points as the Rebels. And if the Rebels get a decent win against the Reds, then the pressure is going to be on the Brumbies in that game. So, fascinating weekend of rugby this weekend. I'll try and be live straight after the Blues versus the... well, it depends whether I actually go to the game or not, to be honest with you. For the Blues versus the Hurricanes, I might be going to that one. But definitely after the Chiefs Hurricanes, not Chiefs Hurricanes, sorry, Chiefs Sharks games, I will be doing a live post-match reaction. So look out for that. Also, this weekend, live post-match reaction to the European Rugby Champions Cup final between Leinster and Saracens. That should also be a cracker. Don't forget, subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the exclusive content you can get through Patreon over there. And there's 2 videos over there that the, what's it called? Artificial Intelligence here at YouTube says you'll enjoy. So go give them a watch.